Anyway, so we're talking about demons. I don't know where it cut off. The first instance of demons is in Genesis 6. After that, you actually don't see any demon possessions in the Old Testament, from Genesis all the way to Matthew. Now, what I'm saying is that it doesn't mean that demons weren't possessing humans. It's just there was no account of demon possession until we get to the book of Matthew. Okay, so for some reason, demons were manifesting a lot during Jesus' time. Demons were everywhere, and it wasn't like they wanted to manifest themselves. They didn't want to come out, but it's because of their reaction to the Son of God, God coming into the world, then they automatically reacted to Jesus. And then later we see that they actually reacted to the apostles too. But if you notice in the Bible that when the apostles begin to diminish, the demons actually begin to diminish too. So there is a correlation between how God wants to reveal himself. And so that gets you thinking a little bit about today, about there's no apostles, so the demons are acting a little differently than how they would in the apostolic era and also in Jesus' ministry, okay? So we could conclude that with the explosive power of Jesus' ministry came with the explosive conflict of the demons being manifested in the world too. So Jesus came into the world, exploded his power, the demons, we also see that manifestation being exploded at the same time. Now, with that in mind, we approach Mark chapter 5. In the first 7 verses, we see the power of the demons, okay? And I just want to quickly remind you guys, if you guys weren't here last time or just didn't see the last time we talked about in Mark chapter 4, then Jesus is in his flotilla, which is like an army of boats, and they're crossing the Sea of Galilee, and they basically encounter a raging storm, right? You guys remember that was a great sermon, I think, or a great passage that we just listened to. The storm basically throws them off track, and they kind of get a little bit off course, and Jesus speaks and calms the storm and the waves at the same time, and they finally arrive at dawn at the other point of the Sea of Galilee, at the east side of the city of Galilee over there, of the cities of Galilee over there. And they reach the shore, but they have no clue what's going on. They reach the shore, and they probably assumed that when they got to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, that it's all countryside, and that they're actually going to experience some kind of rest. They're actually going to experience less of a crowd, and maybe even get some one-on-one time between the disciples and Jesus, and get some really sound, deep teaching. Now, all that to say, that's where we are right now. So let's jump into Mark chapter 5, verse 1. So let's look at verse 1 together. It says this: They came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gerasenes. Now, I remind you that there are 3 accounts of the story: Matthew 8, Luke 8, and Mark chapter 5. And we just so happen to be in Mark, so I'm going to use Mark's account. So in Mark and Luke, it says that they reached the country of the Gerasenes. In Matthew's account, if you look at Matthew's account, it says we reached the country of the Gadarenes. Gadarenes, okay? And so what are we talking about? Is there a contradiction in Scripture? I just want to point that out really fast since we're doing a Bible study. If you say the area of Gadara and the area of the Gerasenes, it's kind of like saying this. Like, Gadara is the region, like Sacramento, and Gerasene is like a city of Sacramento. So it's kind of like me saying Natomas and Sacramento. So if I say you live in Sacramento, you literally live in Natomas, it's kind of the same thing. See what I mean? So Gadarenes, or Gadara, is the region, and Gerasenes, which we see here, is just specifically the city itself. So it's not contradictory. I just want to say that to you guys. So in case you take all of the 3 stories together, you say 2 of them say Gerasenes, 1 of them says Gadara. What's going on? And the same thing as saying we went to Sacramento versus we went to Natomas, or we went to Cordova or something. It's still like Sacramento, right? So don't worry about that. Let's look at verse 2. So they're there. They're at that city on the east side. Verse 2 says, And when Jesus had stepped out of the boat, Immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit. In the ESV, the NAS, and the King James Version actually says, is everything okay? So the ESV, NAS, and King James Version notes that they use the word immediately. Immediately, okay? Imagine that when your boat gets to the shore, immediately you see a guy running at you. That's what's kind of happening, right? And you'll probably react by going back onto your boat and sailing back when you see this type of person running at you. So the ESV, NAS, and King James Version has that immediacy in them. Now I want to go to verse 3 and 4 now. Let's keep tracking with us. Verse 3 and 4 describe this man. It says, he lived among the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. For he had often been bound with shackles and chains, but he wrenched the chains apart, and he broke the shackles in pieces. No one had the strength to subdue him. Now, I'm not sure if he's still wearing the chains. It doesn't really say that, but it says that they tried to chain him. But can you imagine if he was still kind of wearing chains? It's like a Halloween costume, right? But at the very least, you could probably look at this person and you could tell that he has like chain marks and scar marks like that. But when you look at this guy is a wild man. A very uncontrollable, very violent. And note, it says that no one was able to subdue him, right? No one was able to control him. So he had the strength of demons, basically, right? He was life-threatening. I'm sure that no one wanted to come near him because they thought that he was going to kill him. So this person was a man of the tombs. I call him like a man of the tombs. Very scary person, okay? Verse 5. It gets even scarier. Night and day, among the tombs on the mountains, he was always crying out and cutting himself with stones. Can you imagine that? Like at night, you hear someone screaming in pain sometimes because he's cutting himself. Right? So this is a very scary guy. You just hear echoes bouncing off those mountain valleys, those that we talked about, right? And this is a scary guy. The echoes bounce off the Sea of Galilee. This is echoing this kind of scream of horror. And he's all cut up, and there's like scars everywhere. And I want to emphasize something because in the book of Mark, it doesn't say this, but let me read a parallel passage in the book of Luke. In Luke 8:27, it says this: he had not put on any clothes for a long time, and was not living in a house, but in the tomb. So you have this screaming, cutting up, naked sociopath. And immediately when you get to shore, this guy's running at you. He's naked, okay? So just imagine what's going on. His conscience is basically gone. But in reality, his conscience is being controlled by demons. The demons are owning his personality. They're controlling his body. They're controlling his sense of control. And he becomes a vehicle of demonic expression. Let's go to verse 6. And when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and fell down before him. And there's that immediacy again, right? Right away he comes and he bows down before Jesus. How does he even do that? Why does he do that, right? How does he know Jesus? What do you think is happening right here? Why do you think he knows Jesus? There's no really right answer to this, right? But we could see that there was something like in the demonic internet or something like that, like some sign that was posted in hell saying like, this guy's here now, right? Because beforehand we see that Jesus has been exorcising demons, right? So the news has come that the Son of Man is now in this world. So there's probably like a big old bounty or a sign saying like, the Messiah has come, like he's here. But all in all, like maybe the demons like slammed him on Facebook or something that said some kind of news that says the Son of God has come. And so the demon knows him. The demon knows him. And I want to make a note here. The demons know him, but it's not the man that recognized him. It's the demons that actually recognized him. And what does the demon do? What does it say in this verse? What does the demons do? What does the demons do when he gets to Jesus right away? He basically bows down, right? He bows down. And the word for bows down is proskuneo. And proskuneo means worship. It means the demon actually worshipped God or worshiped Christ. So he basically, the demon inside of him, or the spokesperson we see right here, falls on his knees and worship him. It's like a type of revering a person, okay? Let's go to verse 7. Continue tracking on. Verse 7. And crying out with a loud voice, he said, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you, by God, do not torment me." Now, I want to come back to the first question. What do you have to do with me, Son of God? Why do you guys think he asks that question? What pops up in your mind?
From Matthew 1, he's questioning his time to be sent down to.
Yeah. So what do you have to do with me, right? So, well, first of all, let's talk about this. Like, bring it back a little bit. We want to see the acknowledgement that he's giving to God, to Jesus, right? He says, what do you have to do with the Holy One of God? Mark 1, chapter 23 says the same thing. Mark chapter 3, verse 11 says, whenever the unclean spirits saw him, they fell down before him and cried, "You are the Son of God." So I want to remind you guys that demons know God very well. They know God very well. So why ask the question, like what my wife was saying? Matthew kind of gives us a little bit more insight in his account. So in Matthew 8:29, he says this. This is what the demon says in Matthew's account. "Have you come here to torment us before the time?" That's the emphasis I want to say. Before the time. And to understand why they asked that question, you must understand that demons know God very well again. Demons have a very orthodox theology, which means they have a very sound theology of who God is. They understand theology properly. They understand who God is. They understand the Trinity. They understand Christology. They understand everything about God. They know God, okay? And we see that they understand what's known as eschatology. The word eschaton means the end times. So they understand, follow with me here, they understand what's going to happen at the end of the world. And so the end times, they understand that there is a time in the future where God is going to send all the demons into the lake of fire. They understand it's coming that way, right? And the demons, whenever they see Christ, they say, "What are you doing here?" See? They say, "What do you want to do? What do you have to do with me, Son of the Holy One?" Right? It's not according to the timeline yet. So what are you doing here? In Luke's account, Luke 8:31, he notes this. In verse 31, a little bit down where we're going to be at, it says, "They were imploring him not to command them to go away into the abyss." Have you guys heard of the abyss before, that name abyss? It is somewhat synonymous to the word hell, but the word abyss, sometimes even translated in the King James Version, they would call it the bottomless pit. So that's a pretty good translation of the abyss. It's a very dark place, I guess you could say it that way. So the abyss, I want to define this for you. The abyss is the place where God occasionally binds demons forever, permanently in that place. So there's times where Satan's demons are sent to the abyss. And that happens now, okay? So let me read 2 Peter 2:4. It says this, 2 Peter 2:4. For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell, that's the abyss where they're, and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness to be kept until judgment. Jude 1:6 says, "And the angels who did not stay within their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling, he has kept in eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day." This gloomy darkness is what we're talking about. It's known as the abyss. And so it's obvious to us that nobody wants to go to the abyss, right? Nobody, I don't think anybody, whether they're demons or not, wants to go to this bottomless pit. They want to be evil in the evil world they are now. They want the freedom to roam and do whatever they want to do. And so when Jesus comes, they're like, wait a second, what's going to happen with us, right? It's not our time yet. Don't send us into that pit, because you have the power to send us into that pit. So that pit, that abyss, is a place where they could be sent now and then, back then, but it's not the future reference, okay? So let me kind of define, what's the future reference? The future reference we're talking about is the lake of fire. So the lake of fire is more known as like the period after the judgment day. Then they're sent to the lake of fire. That's like the final judgment. But the abyss is a place where God holds the demons into captivity, right? Permanently. So that's what we're talking. So when we say when you see those kind of words in the scriptures, you want to be able to kind of define. And in this case right here, they're saying to Jesus, do not send us to the pit. See? Do not send us to the pit. We're not ready to go there yet. So the man is like completely taken over, and the demons are communicating through him, making him destroy his body, totally unconscious, unashamed of himself, yelling and screaming, violent, uncontrollable, naked. And we'll see a little bit more of his power as we continue, but this leads to verse 8, which is the second power. So we're kind of tracking along pretty fast. The first power is done, and we're going to transition to the power of deity, the power of deity. And that's in verse 8. So let's look at verse 8 together. Verse 8 says, for he was saying to him, come out of the man, you unclean spirit. Come out of the man, you unclean spirit. Who's the object of this sentence? Like, who's the object? Who's Jesus speaking to? Who's the him? Some of your verses says him in there. Singular, right? Who's the him? There's probably it was one representative speaking on behalf of a lot of demons in there, right? So we're going to call him like the spokesman. There's someone that Jesus is speaking to. And Jesus says to the spokesman, come out, you unclean spirit. Very familiar words. They're identified as unclean spirits, right? He commands the unclean spirits with his divine authority. Instantly, they react, right? No rituals, no chants, nothing kind of exorcism. We don't see any like, in Jesus' name, do this and pray and sing and all that kind of stuff. Divine authority instantly, right? Come out, you unclean spirit. Verse 9. Verse 9 says, and Jesus asked him, what is your name? He replied, my name is Legion, for we are many. Now, I want us to understand this. He's asking the man what's his name. Like, what is your name? And so the man had a name. The man had a name that the parents obviously, when he was a very cute child, named him a name that he wanted him to become. You know, that's what parents do. They don't name him Legion. Okay, even though Legion is a pretty cool name now. If you play video games. So his name is not Legion, just saying that right now, right? He's asking for the boy's name, but the problem is that this man is totally under the control of demons. So the answer that the demon gives him is the demon's names. The demon's names. And he says, my name is Legion. And he defines it too. He says, my name is Legion, for we are many, right? Now, Legion is the Greek word legion, which is where we get the word legion. And legion basically has a militaristic connotation to it. It basically means like a Roman army numbering up to 6,000 members, military, right? So legion commander. So you're a commander of a legion, right? So legion means a large number, usually up to 6,000 military Roman army. Okay, it's a very large number. And the demon responds to Jesus saying that we're called Legion. We're called Legion. It's not to imitate Jesus, trust me. Some commentators say that they say that to kind of punk Jesus around. That's not what they're trying to say. So he's not trying to defend himself by saying, my name is Legion, or we are Legion, we are many, in that kind of way. But Jesus demands to know his name because he knows their name. Does that make sense? Jesus demands to know his name because he knows their name. Why does he demand to know his name? Because this is going to give evidence to the power of Jesus. And Jesus wants to display that I'm going to do something out of the normal, right? It's easy, or it's not easy, but it's easier for Christ to exorcise one demon, and it's pretty hard to exorcise 6,000 demons. So he kind of places that name in front so that the people can see what he's about to do. So it gives evidence to Jesus' power. Verse 10. Let's look at verse 10. And he begged him earnestly not to send them out of the country. Now the spokesman is speaking on behalf of the 6,000. And he basically says, we're not ready to leave the country. Luke's account actually says, imploring him not to command them to go away into the abyss. That's where we get that abyss part in Luke's account. And Mark's account says, we're not ready to leave this country. So they don't want to leave this country, specifically go into the abyss, right? Now, why don't they want to leave this country? Why is this reference here? Where are they? Yeah, they're on Earth, yeah, but where specifically? Where are they specifically? They just traveled somewhere, right? So where are they? They're on the other side of the Galilee, right? And the other side of Galilee is actually Gentile country. It's actually Gentile. Do you guys know what the word Gentile means? It's like a non-Jew. We're Gentiles, okay? So whenever you hear the word Gentiles, it means we're not Jewish. In Gentile countries back then, especially back then, were countries manifested with multiple religions. And anything that's not speaking the truth is actually demonic doctrine. So we know that the point of demons is to lead people away from the truth. If you're worshiping anything but the truth, it's actually demonic. And so the plans of demons are to push you the furthest away from the truth. And so Legion, these demons have this perfect setting to do whatever they want to do, right? They're in the Gentile country, in the countries where they promote the kingdom of darkness. And they're probably so many types of religions in the Gentile countries that they're all false religions, and so the demons are loving this. They love the way that they're able to manipulate people away from the truth, and so there's no better place to be, right? They'd rather be there than in the Jewish countries where they're actually worshiping a monotheistic God, right? One God only. And so they want to continue thriving in that country. They want to not go to the eternal damnation of the abyss. And so they're telling God, we don't want to go out of this country specifically to go to the abyss yet, right? And so the demons come up with a very interesting thing. Verse 11. Now a great herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside. Now, I just want to stop right there. This is also an indication of Gentile countries. Why? Pigs, right? So Jews are kosher. They do not eat pigs because of all the dietary laws that we saw back in the Old Testament. Okay, so they don't raise pigs. So we know for sure that they're in a Jewish country. I mean, a Gentile country, sorry. And why do they want to go into the pigs? I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't understand the theory or the philosophy of demons. I don't care. But we don't really know. But the logic is something like this, where demons are evil, demons are violent, demons want to do whatever they want to do, and they want to create some kind of damage. They want to do something. They want to kill life itself, right? And so there's a large herd of swine. The word swine means pigs. And verse 13, if you jump there real fast, it actually indicates that there's 2,000 pigs. 2,000 pigs. And when you see 2,000 pigs, that's not one person that owns 2,000 pigs, right? So it's probably like a village enterprise. You could say it that way. Because the way that the story kind of goes, you'll see why it's probably like a village enterprise. It's just a large mix of pigs owned by a number of people, okay? Verse 12. You guys still tracking with me? All right, let's keep the word verse by verse, right? Verse 12 says, and they begged him, saying, send us to the pigs, let us enter them. Now, remember, I have no clue why they want to, but it's probably most probable that they wanted to create damage. They want damage, right? They want to kill and create havoc. They want to kill someone's property. They want to do something bad, right? Demons just love destruction. They're savage. If I can't damage a man, I'm going to damage a pig, an animal, that kind of way, right? Question, can demons possess animals? What do you guys think? Guess so, right? That's a good answer because of what we read. Yeah. When we think about animals, remember, animals are not self-conscious, regardless of whether you think they are or not, okay? They can't make the ability to make the decision themselves. They're like trained to do things, right? They don't have a personality. They have a brain and they have behaviors. And so with the brain and behaviors, demons can exercise that, right? They can manipulate the brain, they can manipulate the behaviors and dominate animals. And like what Chang said, yeah, we see it right here. And you'll also notice that later on that pigs actually act like the demons. And the demons basically remove their normal animal instincts and restraints, and the animals become very violent and uncontrollable, resulting in their death. And I want you to notice something in verse 12. So look at verse 12 real fast. It says they begged him. They begged Jesus. This begging verb in the Greek actually has legal connotations. That's why it says, I adjourn you. That's what my ESV says that, right? Now, it's like a legal plea bargain. They're trying to do a legal plea bargain with Christ, with the Son of God. And when you think, I think any logical person, when they think about this, when you think of demons asking for a plea bargain with God himself, what do you think? You're probably thinking, nah, you know, right? You're probably thinking, why would God accept their plea bargain, right? Why don't, just send them all to the pit of hell? Like, we don't need any more demons. We don't need to extend the grace of God to demons. Like, why have grace on demons, right? And so some people have misunderstood this verse as if like God and demons have to struggle in this world for power. And so there's like this give and take between God and demons. And I just want to tell you guys that is so far from the truth. That's nothing near Orthodox traditional Christianity, okay? God can take all of the demons he wants right now and throw them in the pit of hell if he wanted to. If he wanted to, right? God could do anything he wants to do with his own creation. Demons are fallen angels, they're creations. God can do anything he wants to do with his creations. And that's actually what we see in Revelation 20, where Jesus actually binds all of them in the pit of hell for 1,000 years, you can say it that way. That's what Revelation 20 says. Which makes it even more ignorant when you think about all these people out there, these Christian pastors and preachers that's going around trying to bind Satan, right? It's kind of mind-boggling to you once you start to understand demon theology, right? They go around trying to bind Satan, exorcise demons from every person that they think is demons. First of all, that's crazy because you don't have the authority to bind Satan. Satan has more power than you, okay? Understand that. Demons will laugh at people who do that just the way they did to the sons of Sceva in Acts chapter 19, verse 15. They said, Jesus I know, Paul I know, but who are you? And they came right into the sons of Sceva, made them naked and run around and go crazy, right? Demons, here's the thing about demons. If you mess with demons, they're going to try to mess with you, and anything that brings you away from the truth and start to believe in these kind of pastors that can exorcise demons is further and further away from the gospel. So they don't mind to mess with you. That's what we're trying to say. They're going to play with you. Anything that takes you away from the centrality of Jesus Christ, right? We want to just focus on what Jesus has done for us. And if you keep focusing on demon Christianity, which is a false version of the gospel, they're going to do it. So they're going to play around with you because it brings you away from the truth. So sometimes it may seem like demons are doing things, but remember, once you get into that kind of flow of demon exorcism and stuff, the gospel is diminished, right? Have you noticed that? It's not about sin anymore. It's not about your faults and your depravity. It's about we need to exorcise those demons, and that's the furthest away from the truth. So understand that Jesus has that power. And the second reason is this. demons actually serve a purpose. Did you guys know that? Demons actually serve a purpose. So why does Jesus answer their plea? I just said it, right? What did I just say? Because demons serve a purpose. They served a purpose in this incident right here. Remember that time when Satan goes up to God and says, let me test Job, right? The whole book of Job is about Jesus, about God allowing Satan to test out Job for a purpose. There was a purpose to that. It served God's purpose. In Luke chapter 22, verse 31, Jesus allows Satan to sift out Peter and to make him deny Peter, right? And it says, why does he do that? Because it served a purpose. Jesus says, and when you have turned again, when you have come back after the sifting of Satan, strengthen your brothers. Meaning, when you come back, you're actually strengthened to actually strengthen your brothers in that way. So there is a purpose. You come back even stronger. So God has a purpose in every single thing that he does. So now that may sound weird, right? But why is that true? That God has a purpose in everything he does, especially in demon purposes, right? Now listen to this. He allows demons to do what they want to do because that actually brings him the glory at the very end. How would God exemplify his grace, right? You understand what I'm saying? Without those demons, see? Without those things happening. It brings him glory. It brings out the wonders of his grace. And at the same time, it actually brings out the wonders of his wrath. So there is a purpose to the things that God does. He allows evil to do whatever they want to do sometimes when he allows it, so that we can see the full attributes of him, right? We want to see the fullness of his grace and his love and his power over Satan. So he allows that to happen so he can take it away and show us that power. So in verse 13, let's read it. Verse 13 says, so he gave them permission. You see that? He gave them permission, and the unclean spirits came out and entered the pigs and the herd, and numbering about 2,000 rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned in the sea. So he yielded. He actually yielded. He stepped aside and said, go. Then they went, right? He has the power. He's like a stoplight for them. Red, you cannot do anything. Green, you may go now, right? In that kind of way. And so it goes to show that there is not one rogue demon out there. Not one rogue demon in existence that does anything outside the realm of God's permission. Does that make sense?
So everything that's happening is within God's.
It's within God's control. He's the creator, right? So he allows things to happen, understand, for the sake of his glory, for a purpose, for something. We have to understand that. Even yielding, letting the demons do this, right? He had to give them permission to do that before they could do it.
Permission, but he doesn't like limit them as to like whatever they're doing in that. Like,
He could if he wanted to, though. He could if he wanted to. So he could do whatever he wants to do. Remember that.
Yeah, but in general, so if he's allowing that to happen, for example, because okay, we're like in 1 Corinthians, I think it says God doesn't let us bear anything beyond what we can
Right.
take, right?
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
So when God's allowing that to happen, because
Okay, now I see what you're
purpose,
saying. Right.
then does he limit what the demons
Yeah, let me say
do?
it this way. Just think about Peter, right? He allows
So in some
Satan to
cases,
sift him, right? Because he already knows the outcome that's going to bring him glory. So if you fell into demon forever, that's not gonna that wouldn't bring him glory. Like if you were truly his elect. See what I mean? So of course there's like something there, like a limit, like what you're saying. Like that. Does that make sense? Because if you're truly his children, you're not gonna die to Satan that way. He's gonna preserve you, just like on the
The
storm.
demons usually just do one purpose there and they kind of leave. They don't stay there forever.
Depends on what God wants to do, yeah. So that's a good, really good point to do there. Okay, so why does Jesus specifically allow permission to the pigs? Now we come to the practicality of the verse. So I just told you guys that he allows them, but why specifically to the pigs now? What do you guys think? Well,
He's a Jew.
what is that? Because he's a Jew. I don't eat it anyway. Possible. No, I don't know.
Well, I don't know, because there's people watching, so they can see the
Yeah.
description of
So the
what
first
you
thing
can do.
is the visual evidence. See, right? The visual evidence that they actually left the man. The second thing that it proves his supernatural power to command and to tell them what to do. And then the third thing is that it actually tells us the destructive nature of demons themselves. So there is a purpose, right? There's a purpose that he allows them to enter those pigs. And the pigs instantly go into their death. Verse 13 says they rushed down the steep back into the sea and drowned in the sea. The theological term for this is pork belly. Or you call it a swine belly. No, let's not think of too deep.
Yeah, I had a question on that too. I mean, I mean, Mark, this is the book of Mark, right? So this is his testimony in a sense, right? So like, did they like, was it visual? You think?
Yeah.
Is that, like very visual of legions of demons?
You mean like, did they actually see these?
Yeah, or is
No.
it more like just like you think like more like a shift of just like craziness that just
Yeah,
transfers from-
because demons are spirits.
yeah, okay.
So they could see it. They could see the communication between Jesus and the man happening. You know, Mark was not there. Just saying, you know, the apostles were there, and Mark's account leans off of Paul and Peter.
Oh, okay.
So Peter was there for sure. Now they're seeing this conversation and they're seeing the reactions of the demons, but they're not seeing like a white air. they're not seeing some kind of like thing that we see on TV or something.
Right,
Okay?
right.
Yeah. So.
But I mean,
so sorry.
well, I'm guessing it's pretty hectic because that's where we're going. Where it's pretty dramatic.
Oh yeah. That's why this is a very dramatic encounter. The most dramatic demon encounter that Jesus faces in this life.
Yeah, like when I was like I read this a long time ago and it was like sleeping in tombs. Like who sleeps in tombs? People in the
Crazy guy?
Right? Like it's almost like this guy is like super strong, super. It's almost
Yeah,
like he's like
it
a
is.
vampire or Dracula.
Yeah.
Like,
Probably where the vampires came from, right? Or something like folklore or something like that, you know? Yeah, true.
Well, compared to all the exorcisms that you did before, this one is very vivid, very detailed
Yeah.
compared to the other one.
It is, yeah.
The other one, because I think the one Mark 3 or Mark
Yeah,
1,
Mark
he
3
was
and Mark
actually
1.
in the synagogue.
Yep.
Calm.
Just teaching.
He
Yeah.
looked just like everybody.
No, he was not calm,
Well,
though.
I mean, like, until
Yeah,
he
he's
started
screeched, right?
erupting,
Yeah.
screeching. Yeah, so you can see a big difference between the craziness of this these demons.
Oh, I was just wondering if Jesus sent them to their death or they committed suicide.
It was a pork belly dive, right? So,
They didn't want to get eaten
pork
by
belly
them.
pop, right?
They didn't want to get maybe.
They committed suicide. Suicide, right? Okay, so let's continue on. It is a suicide, but well, let's continue. All right, so I just wanted you to note that when the demons exited the man, 2,000 of them, 6,000 of them, sorry, into 2,000 pigs, there was instant destruction. That's how we see that there's evidence that the demons actually went to the pigs. Instant destruction. All the gospel accounts don't really tell us why it happened so fast, but it's just to say that the demons wanted blood quickly. They knew that their time has come. If God's right there, they needed to react fast. So they just dove in, dove out, and destroyed and created damage. Kind of answer your questions, right? So the pigs became very violent, uncontrollable, just how we saw that demon, the tomb man, right? The man of the tombs, we call him the man of the tombs, was before. Now, speaking in practical terms, some say that Jesus would never allow all these pigs to die, right? Because like the animal rights activists would probably say something like, 2,000 pigs is worth more than one man, so we're going to save the 2,000 pigs versus that one man. Very liberal, leftist, socialist people would say like, no, Jesus would never do that because Jesus basically ruined the economy of the entire countryside, right? Does that make sense? Because the 2,000 pigs just went out, and like that's for us socialists, that's not worth it, and the economy now is going to go down, all that kind of stuff. I just want us to note something that nowhere in Scripture, follow with me, nowhere in scripture does it say anything about the owners being mad that their pigs are dead. Okay? There's nothing in the scripture that says that the owners were mad that the pigs drowned in that kind of way. They didn't come to Jesus and complain like, dude, what you do to our pigs, you know? The village enterprise didn't sue Jesus, they didn't take him to court. And why is that? Why is that? Why do you guys think of this? Well, just thinking about it, it's probably the due season where those pigs were going to become barbecue, right? So it was probably like an early pork belly feast, right? So it's probably something in that nature where those pigs were in their season to die already. So the village enterprise was probably looking forward to that already, and so Jesus actually did a service to them and killed them in a more humane way than the regular way to slaughter the pigs, you know?
I thought they told Jesus to like kind of like leave.
Okay, we'll get to that. So they didn't lose. The villagers technically didn't lose the pigs. That's why believe me, they went down to the sea and grabbed all the pigs and cooked them really fast. And the water probably preserved the coldness and things like that. Okay, so nobody complained. That's what we're trying to say. Nobody complained about the pigs dying. The money or food was not the issue. Money or food was not the issue. Verse 14. We'll get to what Ching was saying. Let's look at verse 14. The herdsmen fled and told it in the city and in the country, and people came to see what it was that had happened. The person in charge, the herdsman, I think one of you guys, they changed version. What does your version say? They call him what? Verse 14. Verse 14.
Those tending the pigs. They just said those tending the pigs.
The tending the pigs. So the herdsman, that's what we're saying, the herdsman, right? The person in charge basically goes and tells the news of what happened to the people nearby and throughout that countryside, right? Did they know who Jesus was? Probably not, right? They're in Gentile territory now. They're in a place that Jesus has not ever been to yet. But this herdsman goes around telling the people, which tells us that it must have been some kind of village enterprise. He goes around and tells them like, you know, your pig number 20, he's dead, right? Or pig 200, he's not there anymore, right? But nevertheless, people all over came to see him. That's why all over the country came to see him. Matthew's account says the whole city came out. And the citizens most likely knew the man of the tombs. Like, this guy is screaming at night, naked. Nobody could, these are tombs that they're kind of like, molafo, you know? So they know who he is because he's kind of guarding all the tombs, running around doing crazy stuff. And they're probably thinking, what's this about the man of the tombs, right? Or, and you say he did what to the pigs? Like, what's happening to this pig? Let's go see what's going on. But I want you to notice the response. Nobody is yelling at Jesus because of what he did to the pigs. Notice that. Nobody is yelling at Jesus because, remember, the pig, the money, the food, the pigs is not the issue. And notice that nobody is responding to the man of the tombs, because now he's like clothed and sane, basically, right? Because now that he's exercised, he feels his shame. He's obviously gonna hide down here and stuff. And these villagers are not in joy that the maniac is now sane. They're not like, whoa, you're normal talking, and you're just walking around normal, right? And they understand they've taken so much effort to mess with this guy, to chain him up, and they could not over strengthen him, right? They cannot control this guy, and now he's actually standing by himself, sane, and there's no reaction to this because that's not the issue, right? What's the issue? Instead, this is how they respond to the whole incident they just heard. Verse 15, going to what Ching was saying. Verse 15. And they came to Jesus and saw the demon-possessed man, the one who had the legion, sitting there clothed and in his right mind. And this is their response. So he's clothed in his right mind, meaning he could think for himself, he has his conscience. And they were afraid. And they were afraid. Now, their initial response when they meet before Jesus came was fear, right? their initial response to that demon-possessed man was fear. He's gonna kill me, obviously. He's going around with sharp rocks, scarring himself up naked. That's even scary in the first place. And so their initial response was they were frightened, and that's a strange reaction because they used. Okay, let me say this again. Their initial response was they was frightened, and their after response, their post response, is they're frightened again, and that's a strange response. Because they were frightened of the demon-possessed man. Obviously, he's crazy, he's naked. And now that he's clothed and not naked, he's been transformed to a new person. He's quiet and in control. The response is fear again. Why? Why are they afraid again? What do you guys think? Because of someone else, right? They're not afraid of the guy now. They shift their attention to Christ. They shift their attention to Jesus. The Greek word that's used here is phobia, which is what? Phobia is where we get the word phobia, right? That word phobia means they were terrified. That means they were feared, scared out of their mind. When you have a phobia, that's what basically happens, right? All these type of phobias. And why were they scared? Just like what Nivameng said, they just experienced the supernatural, right? They just saw something that they have never seen before in their life. They have just seen divine power, the power of God itself. And this is the same response to anyone who ever experiences the true God in their presence, like we talked about last time, right? The disciples, after the storm, before the storm, during the storm, they were afraid, they were terrified. After the calm of the storm, what was their reaction? They were terrified, right? Why? Because instead of the storm outside the boat, the storm now became inside the boat. God was in their presence. And the natural reaction is when you see God, it's fear, right? You see God's glory. That means He sees your sin. We talked about that last time. And when He sees your sin, you're dead. And that is the same reaction that we see, for instance, in John, when John saw the revelation in Revelation 1, saw the vision, he fell down like a dead man. It says that, right? And we spoke about Isaiah, Ezekiel, they all had that kind of vision saying, don't come to me, I am a man of uncleanness. Like, watch, I cannot be in your presence, God, because I have sinned. And this fear comes out. And so with these Gentile pagans, these unbelievers, they know they're in the presence of God. And that's the logical response when you're in the presence of God, is fear, right? Is fear. Now to the last point, which is crazy, which is even better. The last point is the power of depravity. If you don't know the word depravity, it just means your wickedness, your sickness, your deadness, your sinfulness, right? The power of depravity. Most of us would assume that if you saw this miracle right here, if you saw that this guy that's been doing this for such a long time is now walking around sane, if you saw a genuine miracle, then revival would start, right? All of a sudden, like, wow. Like, you would think the village would be saying, like, who is this man that has delivered the man of the tombs, right? Who is this man that can deliver us from Satan, can deliver us from the kingdom of darkness? Like, we want what this man has to offer. We want this life. We want to hear the message that caused this to happen. Like, what is this? What's the situation? Who is this man? We need to hear this. We need to praise him. This is God in our presence. However, that's not what they said, right? Verse 16 through 17. Verse 16 through 17. And those who had seen it described to them what had happened to the demon-possessed man and to the pigs. Verse 17. And they began to beg Jesus to depart from their region. Please go back to where you came from. And we do not want anything to do with this. We don't want anything to do with this. Luke's account mentions this. It says, all the people of the country and surrounding districts asked him to leave. Wow. That's a lot of people, right? Came and ask him to leave. That is shocking. It's a universal cry for Christ to leave and depart from them.
Because there's no his power.
Because of God, right? So instead of like investigating the facts, instead of like talking to him, instead of listening to the message of salvation, they implore him to actually leave their presence. They're more afraid, like what Nitsuka was saying, they're more afraid of God in their presence than Satan in their presence. Can you imagine that? They were okay with that guy running around naked. They're more afraid of God in their presence. And so they're okay with Satan in their presence. Just leave the guy at the tombs, right? Don't worry about him. But when it came to God, they said, we can't handle that. Leave, please, please. They're begging him to leave, see? They're actually begging, imploring him to leave their presence. And the fact of the matter is, they're more comfortable with their sin being hidden than their sin being exposed. See that? See what I mean? Because that's God. They're more comfortable with it, just leave us alone. Just let us be, right? They're more comfortable with sin than holiness. The power of 6,000 demons are welcomed, but the power of God is not welcomed. And this is the prime example of the depravity of men. John 3:19 says, men love darkness rather than light because their deeds are evil. And Jesus says this in John 8:44, they're of the father, the devil. Paul says it everywhere. We're dead in our trespasses and our sins. We're under the power of the prince of the air, driven by lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. And that's one reason when you think about us as Christians in this world, that's one big reason why the world hates Christians, right? The world hates us. Evil is a natural thing. It's a natural tendency for us. Sin is natural to us. And evil is always welcomed in comparison to holiness and truth. Have you ever noticed that? That evil is always more welcome. I've been, like we were talking to my man, I've been watching Ben Shapiro, and he's this lawyer that argues very well. And he says his main slogan is, facts don't care about feelings. And the more I watch him, he's arguing with people, and the people that he's arguing with are saying things like, if they think that they're this, or if they feel this way, let them be, right? And so what happens is the argument is like, but let's look at the truth. Let's look at the truth. Let's look at the truth. Facts. Let's look at the facts. Look at the facts. Look at the facts. It's not about the feelings. It's about the facts, right? And people hate the truth. You understand that? People do not want the truth to come in the forefront because the truth reveals their wickedness and their sins. Because now everything's become relative, right? Everything's become, let's allow these things to happen. And the truth has been covered because men love darkness rather than light. And so objective truth has now become relative truth. It's become your truth. It's become subjective truth. It's become whatever I think is true. And if you see these videos of people evangelizing to like these young people, like, if I think I'm a dog, would you allow me to be a dog? Like, if you want to, you know, the truth is totally gone. It's because there's no offense to them, right? You don't want to offend anybody. You want them to be happy in their own minds. And so it's very dangerous. I mean, this is the depravity of men. The depravity. We do not want holiness. We don't want truth. When truth comes to shove, we rather hide behind something else, right? And also, now transitioning a little bit. We've been studying the life of Jesus in Mark, right? And we've always seen this. I want to transition a little bit because this is happening right here too. We've always seen that miracles, follow with me, miracles is not a prerequisite to salvation, right? Right? Am I right? Miracles is not a prerequisite to salvation. As powerful as miracles can be, the power of depravity is so much stronger, right? Miracles do not break people's hearts. Miracles do not break people's hearts. You can do a miracle beyond contradiction, beyond power as it is, and it won't overcome a person's unbelief and change the hardened heart. There's only one miracle, and we've talked about this before. There's only one miracle that can change the heart, and that is the power of the regenerating power of God to remove that old heart and place His heart into your heart, right? And we are reborn again. That's what the concept of being reborn again is all about. And it's such an unexplainable miracle when that happens to you, that God has changed your heart through the power of the gospel message, right? But miracles is not a prerequisite to that. It has nothing to do with miracles. And it just shows you the same situation in Mark chapter 5. They did not care about that miracle. You understand that? They wanted to be as far apart from holiness as they can. And they're like, we saw what you did. It doesn't matter to us, see? We saw that miracle. We just don't want the holiness in front of us. You need to depart from us. And look at verse 18. So Jesus responds. This is Jesus' response to him. Verse 18 says this. As he was getting into the boat, they just got there, right? They just got there. That happened. And Jesus' response is, I'm leaving, right? I'm going to leave you guys to your doom. That's just so sad. That's so sad. They just had to leave, right? That's a once in a lifetime opportunity to hear, to even see a miracle in that sense, right? To see the gospel message, amazing demonstration of the depravity of men, right? They saw that happen. Jesus responds, I'm leaving, I'm booking out. On the other hand though, now we flip the story a little bit. Verse 18 says this. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been possessed with demons begged him that he might be with him. One person reacts in the positive. That one person is who? The man who was possessed by the demon, right? He does not want to live another day without Christ. He does not want to live another day without Christ. Not only that he's been freed of demon possession, that's just crazy in the first place, he's been given a new heart. And he wants to be with the Son of God. And for the first time ever, this man actually desires holiness. He saw it firsthand, right? He experienced it with himself. And the man wants to be with the living, especially with the man that gives life itself. And the verse says he begs Christ, right? He begs Christ. That's a disciple. That's a follower, right? I'll do anything to follow you. I am begging you, please let me go on the boat with you, Christ. I'm giving up my life for you. Like, what do you want me to do? I'm begging you, please let me. But Jesus responds in a very surprising way. In verse 19, the NIV, I'm going to read from the NIV version. It says this in the NIV. Follow with me. It says, Jesus did not let him. Jesus did not let him. Say, wow, Jesus, I thought you wanted true disciples, right? I thought you wanted me to follow you. I thought that if I gave up the whole world and I was able to carry my cross, that you'd let me in. So what's going on? Jesus, are you contradicting your gospel message? The context answers it. Let's read verse 19. Verse 19 says this. And he did not permit him, the demon-possessed guy, the freak guy, but said to him, go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you. What's happening here? Instead of being a disciple, what does he become? What? A seed, yeah. What? Evangelist. He becomes a missionary, right? He becomes. Did you guys know that the man of the tombs is the first missionary sent out by Christ? Did you guys know that? Because follow the storyline. The apostles are still following him. They're still learning. They're not sent out yet. Jesus has not sent the 70 out 2 by 2 yet either, right? And Jesus sends this man who he has just healed from demon exorcism. And you're gonna question this. Why are you sending this guy to be the first missionary, to be the first sent out person from you? Imagine his testimony, right? He's like, I don't know how to tell you guys, but I used to be a guy that lived in the tombs, naked, kind of running around screaming, you know? That's my testimony. That's all you got to say. And God saved me. That's what you have to say, right? I used to be this guy, and I now have clothes on, right? That's crazy. So you're gonna have to question, like, why did Jesus send this guy? And it also tells you something very interesting. It tells you how much you need to know to evangelize. What did this guy know? Nothing, right? Nothing except this is God. This person is God. So Jesus says to this man, he says, go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has mercy on you. Let me ask you a question. True faith always results in what? True faith always results in what? Obedience. You guys hear that? True faith always results in obedience. And we see it in this guy right here. That's why we can say this guy was a true believer. This guy was a true believer. Verse 20. Let's continue on. It gets even better. And he went away and began to proclaim in the Decapolis how much Jesus has done for him, and everyone marveled. Decapolis is a region of 10 cities. The word deca means 10. And so it's a measurement of 10. It's a group of cities in the east of the Jordan. And this man basically starts working those cities, those small little cities. And he goes and starts preaching barely anything. He doesn't know too much, right? What does he know? What does he know? I'm asking you, what does he know? And you guys already kind of said it.
She knows how crazy he was. Like,
yes, he knows his life before. That's all he knows. And he knows what happens after, right? That's all he knows. He knows what he used to be and what he is now. He knows that he used to be this kind of person. And now he knows that there's only one explanation of how I am now, and that's through the power of God. That's all he knows. And I want to conclude with this. We're almost done. I want to ask this question, and this will be answered, I guarantee you. So it's a rhetorical question, okay? Whatever happened to this Gentile region? What do you guys think? It's a rhetorical question, meaning you don't have to answer it. I'll let it sit with you and think about it a little bit. What happened in this Gentile region? I want us to get the answer to it, okay? Let's turn to Mark chapter 7. Mark chapter 7, verse 31. Mark chapter 7. Do you need a Bible or whatever? Mark chapter 7, verse 31. And I want to read this to you, because this will make so much sense now, okay? Mark chapter 7, verse 31. Is everyone there? Okay. Then he, Jesus, returned from the region of Tyre and went through Sidon to the Sea of Galilee in the region of the Decapolis. Right? Decapolis. I don't know if it's Decapolis. Notice they're back in this region. They're back here. This is the answer. Look at verse 32. And they brought to him a man who was deaf and had a speech impediment. And they begged him to lay his hand on him. Now, question is, why did they bring the man who was deaf and almost mute to Jesus? What do you guys think? What was that? Why do they know he has power? Because of the evangelist, because of the missionary, right? That is crazy. Jesus has only been there one time. And he had to go back on his boat and leave because the people wouldn't accept his holiness. So that means that Jesus did not minister in that area anymore. So what's going on? The ministry of the man in the tombs of Mark 5. You see that? The ministry of the man into Mark 5. This is his harvest. This is his harvest. He sows and sows. He's going around in the Decapolis, right? Those 10 cities. And he's just preaching the gospel, just saying, there's a man named Jesus that can heal you. I used to be like this. I'm a new man. Believe in him, whatever. He's just sowing the seed like we talked about in the parable of the sower. And months go by, months of him sowing and sowing and sowing and sowing. And finally, Jesus comes back to the area of the Decapolis right here, the region of Decapolis. And people hear that Jesus is back, and they say to themselves, this is the man whom the man of the tombs was speaking about. Let's go and see what's going on. And if you look at Mark chapter 8, let's look over at Mark chapter 8. This, Mark chapter 8, verse 1, it says this. In those days, when again a great crowd had gathered, they had nothing to do to eat. Let's stop right there. In those days, when a great crowd had gathered. This is the result of the man's grace and testimony. His faithfulness to Christ. This is the seed, his harvest, right? Sorry. He believed and obeyed Christ's mission to him. And now we actually get to see his fruits. Now turn back to Mark chapter 5, verse 20. We'll conclude. In Mark chapter 5, verse 20, it says, or they conclude this way, and all the people were amazed. Right? This guy is going around in these 10 cities, and all the people were amazed. This is the first missionary ever sent out by Jesus himself. This is the demonstration of the grace of God to sinners. What did he know? Once again, nothing. He knew nothing except how I used to be, and now I'm just like this, right? I'm a totally transformed person. And we bring that to us today. If you're a Christian, you know the same things he knows. That makes sense? It doesn't mean you know a lot, but you do know the same things you know. And what is that? You know who you used to be, and you know who you are now. Does that make sense? You have the same evangelistic testimony as this man in more, because we have this. You see that? We have no excuse compared to this guy who just went out and created this massive crowd of people wanting to know Jesus. And so you're responsible to be faithful just as this man was. And so God can use you, whoever or whatever, however he wants to use you. So I pray, I urge you, I plead with you guys, pray about it. Pray about how God wants to use you, because we just saw that you have the same testimony if you're a Christian to say, I used to be like this, and I'm like this right now. Let's pray. Lord Jesus, we are so in awe of who you are. Seriously, this passage is so wonderful. At the same time, it is sad to hear that the Gerasenes, they just did not want your holiness. But Lord, we thank you that you used this one man that's been totally transformed physically and spiritually, mentally, consciously, to preach your word, and we see the fruits of his labor. And so, Lord, we pray that you may use us in the same way. We pray that you may humble our hearts so that we may be saved by you, to hear your message, to be changed and transformed from the inside, from our hearts, Lord. And it doesn't require a miracle, it just requires your word, your truth to be preached to us on a constant basis so that we may see your truth and may rely only on you. We thank you in your name. Amen. All right, guys, so we're going to close this session. Sorry. And we'll go from there.